Viewer discretion advised. This week's episode of High and Hello is brought to you in part by Coin Toss. You got a decision? Is it two options? Fuck it, flip a coin. Coin Toss. You're having fun with us on Facebook, but check us out on the other platforms too. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, even SoundCloud. Just search High and Hello Podcast. Dig it. We're a day late and a dollar short, but that's just what we do here. Get ready, buckle in, get your favorite recreational substance and abuse it. Another episode of High and Hello starts in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of High and Hello. It's Tyler, as always. You heard it in the intro. Alright, we're going to jump right into it. My guest today is Brantley.
Howdy.
Bradley. I said Brantley. I apologize.
Oh, Bradley.
Bradley,
Yeah.
Yes, that's my apology. How are you today, man?
I'm good. It's surprisingly hot.
Yeah, we had like 2 weeks of rain, and it felt like the floods were coming, and then all of a sudden it just got nice again.
Indian summer.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it all day.
Yeah.
Because we're probably going to get hit till, what, March?
Best. It was freezing until mid-April last year.
Oh, jeez.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's jump into it a little bit. Tell us about yourself a little bit. Where are you from?
So I grew up in Northern California. Spent childhood right outside of Sacramento, and then lived in San Francisco and Oakland for about 14 years before moving to Chicago.
Nice. Out of all of those, what was your favorite part of Cali?
It's something I've realized since moving here, is the access to nature. Like, there's mountains, there's the ocean, there's everything you could possibly want right there within like an hour's drive of pretty much anywhere.
So how old were you when you moved to Chicago?
So I moved to Chicago for the first time in February of 2015.
Okay.
I was here for 18 months. So that would have put me like 31, 32.
So you had enough time to explore the nightlife in California while you were there?
I worked at a bar in San Francisco called the Lone Star, gay dive bear bar. Very active in the nightlife there.
Nice.
I haven't yet to get as active as I was there as I am here now.
Oh, that's fair. But was it just then the initial rush of being able to go out and then not only working there, was that like why you were out the most, or now are you just at a point where it's just not your scene anymore?
The gay community especially is very different here in Chicago than it is in San Francisco. It's a little more segregated. In San Francisco, everyone was kind of always together, and here it seems like you have one group that hangs out in one neighborhood and one group that kind of hangs out in another neighborhood, and you don't really get a lot of mixing of folks as much.
I get what you're saying.
It's not intentional. It's just there's like the north side, more bare, kinky, leathery gays, and you have your boys' town, young, pretty, traditional gays, so to speak.
Right. That's interesting to say, like, traditional gays. You know what I mean? I've never stopped to think of it like that, how there was... Because I'm pretty aware of Chicago's history with the LGBTQ.
Mm-hmm.
I almost have them all memorized, but that's about as far as I got.
I've heard it as long as LGBTQQIA.
I think that's what we did last... one of the pods we were talking about it, and I think that's exactly how we presented it last time. There's a lot now.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot that are welcome in.
I just do queer.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Because everything is a spectrum nowadays.
Queer's kind of one of the interesting terms out of it all, I think, at least, just as like an outside point of view, because like even I'll still call it like the F word.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Which you know which word I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And like queer was also like another one of those words that I feel like that never really reached the threshold of being used as like a bastardized way, because there was an F word to say.
Yeah.
You know what
there
I'm
was
saying?
something worse.
Yeah, there was something that just kind of digs in a little bit deeper. But like, I remember when we were younger, we were at a football practice and the coach had nothing to do. And so he threw a ball to the ground and said, just play Smear the Queer.
Smear the Queer.
And
I played that as a kid.
What the fuck is that? You're like, excuse me?
I grew up not knowing
But
any
like,
of the
you know,
connotation.
like as I grew up in it, then I was like, oh fuck, that's what that game was we played, right?
Yeah.
Like not thinking of anything. It sounds like a fucking dish. It sounds like a side dish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's a little bit of smear.
Yeah.
But like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, I think in like the late 90s, early 2000s, the gay community at the time really took back the word queer. And I think queer can apply to anybody. even heterosexual cisgender males, they can still be on the queer spectrum. Queer is just anything that's relationship or gender non-traditional, non-conforming. And I think that's more how you have to look at it nowadays, as opposed to there are gays and there are straights, and then there are men and women and trans people, and they're all so separate, but there's so much overlap in so many different places. And I think queer is one of those few things that 99 out of 100 times when you refer to a LGBT person, you're never going to offend them. Except for, like, there is a small percentage of trans women, heterosexual identified trans women, that are very much that they're heterosexual women and don't want to be under the queer. But that's rare, and they'll call you on it, and then it's not a problem.
So, since you've been in the community for, I take it, or if it's okay.
I've been out since I was 16.
You've been out since you were 16.
More or less.
And for the timeline that we're looking at, if you were 31 or so in 2015, so this was around 2000?
Yeah, I graduated class of 2000. It was like July 4th, 1999 was the day, first time I ever tried coming out.
Yeah.
My dad found gay porn cookie files on the computer, and that was not fun, because it was also my parents' wedding anniversary that day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a day.
Yeah. Kind of ruined the day.
Yeah, you didn't delete the history? It just happened to be...
I was 16. It was like we didn't really...
That's the interesting. There was a point in time recently where there was certain things we didn't know about technology.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if that would have happened 10 years later, I'm sure it would have been easier because everyone had their own device.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
We had one family computer. We had...
Oh, the family computer.
Fairly restricted access to the internet.
The family computer.
Yeah, it was... Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
Was it in, like, a common area of the house? Was it
yes.
Like the living room or the dining room or something?
Sorta. Like, my dad kind of had an office, space that the computer was at, and I was up playing on PlayStation, and all of a sudden I hear, "Bradley Aaron, get down here," and had to try to come out to my parents. I had to come out to my parents.
You get the middle name too.
Oh yeah.
The middle name.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's god, that's the worst.
And yeah, that was real fun. I'm lucky enough that I had a couple weeks before that started going to this like gay youth group.
Okay.
I come from a fairly conservative Christian family, and a friend of mine from high school had taken me to this group, and so at least I had met some gay people. I had enough confidence to like be able to come out and not just be like, I don't know what you're talking about, and
yeah, that's a big move, man.
But
that's a major fucking move in an individual's life to make some kind of a stand like that. There's a lot of people in this world who complain about a lot of fucking shit, man. And here's the thing: they've never taken a stand for anything, let alone themselves. A lot of times, you know what I mean. A lot of people who are fucking opinionated and like want to judge somebody off of. That's just it. When you're judging somebody, you're just judging another body. It's another person, just like you.
Yeah.
Like, I would hate it if someone came up to me and just started calling me out on who I am, and like I could never imagine it because it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? To people, because there's such a fucking traditionalist idea on like this is how you are to be. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to come at you or like the community or anything. I'm just spitballing for a second. How the fuck? I don't get how people hate. Maybe that's just it.
I don't either.
I've never really understood hate.
Like, I am so happy that I am gay because of the upbringing that I had, and if that was the only thing that was changed in my life, and I was straight, I totally could have ended up one of those alt-right guys. Yeah. Like, I could have, if I would have been as nerdy and kind of antisocial as I grew up being, if I was straight, that would have just led to not good things. Like, and so I'm happy that gave me the perspective to be able to look at other people, at other minorities, and be able to empathize with that. Because a cisgender white man, it's hard, and even when you try, you fuck up sometimes.
You know what's interesting though? This is a really weird thing to say, and I understand, but what's really interesting to me, and once again, I view everything as just an outsider looking in, you know what I mean? Like, not trying to be part of the argument, but seeing what started the argument and, like, you know, where everything formulates from. And, like, I've only been on this planet for 26 years, okay? I don't know much. I'm still getting my sea legs to this adult thing, okay? But it's interesting because I hear that a lot. I hear, like, it's really easy being a white male. And I totally agree. Don't get me wrong there. But it's interesting to be in a time where everyone is saying it, not in a bad way, but, like, everyone all agrees, like, well, it's easier for you. You know what I mean?
It's just...
But it's weird to, like, to be part of that easier for category and not subconsciously think about it like that. You know what I'm saying? It's wild.
It's something that we haven't even had to think about.
Right.
Until recently.
But at the same time, though, it's something that every person born doesn't have to think about until it happens to them.
Yes.
And for more than some others, it happens. And it happens frequently, and it happens often, and it forms how this person's whole time on this fucking rock in space is going to time out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or build up. It's interesting.
And it's honestly just not worth the time. Like people that I've never expected to be able to get along with or feel like I can empathize with, I have found to be the people that I form the closest relationships with. Because the people that you tend to butt heads with tend to be the people that you have the most in common with.
Right.
When it comes down to it. And and there is so much discrimination in so many levels of our society. And especially as, like, white men, we don't see it. And you don't see it as much. And to now, like, hopefully we're moving into this world where it's just, we thought racism was unacceptable, and, oh, look, Nazis are back. We thought that, like,
boys could behave, and now it turns out they can't.
Yeah. There was this great Facebook meme that I saw this week, and it was like, somebody had, like, cross-stitched boys will be boys, and then they crossed out the boys and will be held accountable for their boys will be held accountable for their actions. And it all comes down to accountability, really, when it comes down to it. You may not sexually abuse somebody, but if you put them into a place where they feel assaulted, that assault is legitimate.
Right.
Like, and yeah, because of all the Kavanaugh stuff, that's kind of, like, really on the top.
No, I get it completely.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Because there was that one person, and I say that because we see all these fucking memes all the time because we're so, like, dialed in to the machine at this point, or we're caught in the storm. And so at this point, like, you're scrolling and you'll see, like, somebody's tweet and somebody's response, and, like, there's so many names that we read all the fucking time. Like, we're so wound tight to it.
Oh, yeah.
I just can't always remember each person who said it, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And this is also me just kind of conveying that out to the person listening to be like, yeah, I get it. Sometimes I fuck up and I can't get the name just off the top of the head. But, yeah, they were just saying, like, are we supposed to now raise boys to know that when they're in high school, whatever they do is going to matter? And, like, the person's like, yeah, absolutely. That's how you should raise a human across the board, or across the board, whether it's boy, girl, or gender of choice.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
There's nothing more sexy than consent. And speaking of another meme, there was this, like, conservative political cartoon that had a guy and a girl sitting in a car, and the guy's like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to, like go too far. And the girl's like, am I doing something wrong? And then somebody crossed all that out, and it was just like, all the guy should do is ask for permission, and chances are you're going to get, and okay, there's only two answers, yes or no.
Yeah.
And if it's not yes, it's no.
Right.
And, but that's not just, like, segueing into Burning Man. That is something that I really learned a lot about at Burning Man, because consent out there is something that is pounded into you so hard. Because
let's talk about that for a little bit. So, guys, when I originally met Bradley, we were outside of a watering hole we attend, and we were talking about, you know, getting together and having a chat. I like to be able to talk to people for more than 3 minutes outside of a bar with a cigarette or something.
Yeah.
And I want to meet him a bit. And he was like, yeah, I will, but I'm going to be gone for a minute. And I was like, where are you headed? And he goes, Burning Man. Oh, Burning Man. Yeah, Burning Man. Never been. This was your 13th year?
This was my Burn-mitzvah. Yeah,
Your Burn-mitzvah?
Yeah, this was
Let's dive into it. First thing first Burning Man. How did that go?
That's kind of a weird thing because the first night I arrived at my first burn, I had 2 teeth abscess.
Okay.
So, didn't see anything. Really didn't leave camp. For a quick example, at Burning Man, think of Burning Man as a temporary city, and the most basic level of organization is the camp, or theme camp. And the camp that I was with, they were great, but I couldn't do much. I didn't see the man. I didn't see any of the major art pieces that year. But luckily enough, a campmate of mine was fucking a doctor in the next camp over, and the doctor had some really good painkillers and antibiotics, so I was able to get through the week. But Burning Man really clicked with me when we were breaking down that first year, and I was in so much pain, but I was like, I can still help break down. My face hurts. I'm swollen like a squirrel, but I can help break down shade. I can pack stuff up. So that got me working.
Was the community just very tribal? Like, we're part of this part of Burning Man, we're part of this part, but everyone's welcome, but more of like, we keep to our sides individually because we've come here for so many years?
It's kind of like a bell curve like that. The people who are really, really hardcore Burning Man people, the ones that get out early, set up the city, they're generally called DPW or Department of Ply Works. They're rough people. They're great. I love them, but they're all a little touched, and they're out there for some time. A little touched.
I love it.
Some of them are out there for 2-3 months ahead of time.
Wow.
And then you have like the good, like, people who just are involved and participate, and then at the other end of the spectrum you have what are called the plug-in players, and they're the ones who spend $20,000 on the week in like a glamping kind of like style, and don't actually really partake or participate in the event. They're
there for Instagram.
They're there for Instagram. They're the ones that are there just to party. Because if you go to Burning Man just to party, you're missing so much of it.
Oh shit! What's the average stay for Burning Man?
Average stay is probably 5 to 7 days. The city is usually full, and at capacity, the city opens Sunday at midnight, and the event goes for 1 week. So it's following Sunday at midnight, and the city is usually full by Wednesday. And after that, you don't really have people coming in. You have some of the weekenders that just come in, but they're the ones usually flying in. Those are your Paris Hilton, Will Smith types that come in for a hot minute and then leave.
Right, they make an appearance.
Yeah. But I have to give it to Paris Hilton. She's been out there 7 years, and she camps just like the rest of us in a real tent.
Met her?
I haven't met her. I've met Rosario Dawson. She's cool. She's amazing. She camps.
I bet.
She camps
Rosario Dawson seems like she'd be cool as shit.
Oh yeah, and she camps like real people too. Like she camps with this like female like feminist camp.
Yeah, rocking.
And 2 years ago, I was served a cocktail by Susan Sarandon.
Wow. At
Timothy Leary's like wake event that they did.
Wow.
Yeah, she was working the bar, and she looked like every middle-aged lady out there.
No shit.
My friend was like, "You realize who that is, right?" And I kind of look at her, and she's all dusty, and she looks like every woman her age out there. And I was like, "Whoa, that is Susan Sarandon. Awesome."
It wasn't the drugs, right?
It wasn't that. That was early. She was probably on more drugs than I was. It was early in the week. With drugs out there.
How's that policed? How's it all like policed in a sense? Which I know that's a bad way to put it, but how is it all watched over?
So the Burning Man itself has the Rangers, which are like a self-policing force.
Okay.
They're always the first one you go to with a problem. They'll usually, if you're having a bad trip, they'll take you to like a couple of places that are meant for that, called Zendo.
Wow.
They literally have people there to walk you through a bad trip. If they can't handle it, it goes up to the de-escalation team, and they're like a special type of Rangers. And then after that, you'll either get local you'll get local sheriff, Bureau of Land Management, county police. There's a whole bunch of different law enforcement that are out there.
I mean, this isn't like a new thing.
And for a week, it becomes the third largest city in Nevada.
Wow.
So you have a lot of people.
Nevada's got something going on there. Like, Nevada's fucking way cooler than it sounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've never been to Vegas. It doesn't really apply to me.
Never, likewise.
Reno, I'm liking Reno more. Reno, like I like to say that Reno, especially coming back from the burn, it's the greatest place for your return to what we call the default world, like the real world, because it's just a little bit of that kind of like Playa Magic because of all the lights and things like that, but it's kind of a harsh reality in Reno. Reno is not the greatest town.
Good to know.
No,
it's fine. It's just that. Yeah. It'll time out. Don't worry about it.
But Reno's got a really great art, like up and coming art scene, probably due to its proximity to Burning Man, and some of the best Chinese food that I've ever had.
No shit.
It's been there forever because the Chinese workers on the Transcontinental Railroad, and you follow that railroad west to pretty much Salt Lake City, and you're gonna have a great line of good Chinese food. It's surprising, and it's just been there for 150 plus years now.
No shit.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
But yeah, if you're at Burning Man having to get all the way up to actual law enforcement, that's when things are going to be like real. I've never seen any fights at Burning Man.
You're going to see more fights at a sports game than you are at Burning Man. Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think in 2017, a whole 50 people were arrested at Burning Man.
Out of
70,000.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
That ain't nothing. That's people who probably need to be in jail for something.
I mean, either carrying way too much drugs on them and are stupid about it. Like, that's how you get caught. That's how you get in trouble out there. You're stupid. I had a friend one year that sparked up a joint right on the street. It was dark, but you could still see him smoking, and you could still smell it, and some law enforcement came up and ticketed him, and 4 months later, he had to fly back from Maine to Reno to appear in court.
So Burning Man is like, is there like a hotel like setup, or like when you say he was smoking it on the street, do you literally mean like there's paved roads that you're out on? Is that?
Yeah.
Oh my god, you have a tattoo of...
I have a tattoo of the map. Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. Well, it makes sense. I mean, after like the 10th year, you might want to know.
But it's really useful.
That's amazing. I'm sorry, it was a really cool tattoo. I was like, that's dope. But
thank you.
I would have never guessed. That's cool as shit.
For those of you who can't see my tattoo, basically the city is laid up in like a clock from 2 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and in concentric rings getting bigger. The streets are marked out. They're not paved. It's playa. It's an ancient dry seabed.
Oh, wow.
It's like chalk dust, kind of.
Okay.
It's pretty soft. It gets very dusty. There's no sand. People will sometimes say, "Isn't it so sandy at Burning?" But it's dust. It's dusty. And the streets are laid out. The spoke streets are numbered, like a certain number on a clock, and then the ring streets are A, B, C, D, and so on. I think they get back as far as like M or N or even O at this point.
Damn, run out of letters.
Yeah, those street names are renamed every year to fit in with the theme, but it's always going to be A, B, C, D.
Right.
And you usually say your address as like, so you say you're at 7:30 and E, so it means you're at 7:30 and E. And then you're somewhere around there. You can be a little more specific if you could say 7:35 and be mid-block. But that's how you kind of tell where you are out there.
Good to know.
And he was, my friend was just sitting like right in front of his camp. They had a couch for people to walk by and watch. And he lit up a joint, and they just caught him right there. Also, he was fishing for hippies, which it attracts even...
Fishing for Hippies. That's the best band name ever. That's Patton, we call it. Everybody out there. Fishing for Hippies. That's our new band name. Love it. You good?
Oh.
Yeah, I'll take it.
But fishing for hippies is you attach a blinky to the end of like a fishing pole, and then you cast the blinky out into the street, and then when someone goes to pick it up...
Oh my god, it's a real
You
thing.
reel it in. Oh yeah. That's how you fish for hippies.
That's fucking amazing. I did not know that was a thing. Fishing for Hippies. So you have like a blinking light at the end, and you use it as a lure, and you cast out into a sea of people, and you just reel in one. That's so bad. Thank you. That's terrible, but it's genius.
And the hippies usually get rewarded because Burning Man is a leave no trace event. Right. Like, everything that you bring with you comes back with you, unless it comes out of your body. Half of your ticket goes to porta potties.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like, it's a large percentage of the ticket goes to the porta potty rentals. The company who does that makes all of their money for the entire year.
Are you serious?
Yeah, everything else is profit.
I wonder if it's just like one of their friends or something. That the person who started is like, I got a company, I could do this, and now he's set every year for one festival.
I think they do like every yeah, they do a lot.
That makes sense. That's amazing, though.
Yeah, and but you have to think of it more like a city, as opposed to a festival.
How does food work?
You bring it with you.
Yeah, you bring all your own stuff.
Yeah.
Can you leave after you get there, or are you there for the week?
You can re-enter. It costs you like $20.
And that's mostly people just getting more food or something.
Yeah, but there's Gerlach, which is about 25 minutes away from where Burning Man is.
Yeah. But
there's nothing there. So closest thing is going to be Fernley or Reno, which are going to be about 2.5 hours. It's in the middle of nowhere. So you got to be prepared. One of the major tenets of Burning Man is radical self-reliance.
Did you get nervous on your first trip out to where the camps are just because of how long it took you to get there? Or like, was it just anticipation or nerves or anything out of that?
My first year I wasn't really nervous. One, I didn't have any drugs on me.
Who'd you go with? If you don't mind.
A guy that I was dating at the time, he was an active burner. He welcomed me into his camp. And I'd been working all year with them, so I already knew most of them. And I came in, and like I said, I wasn't very active my first year, but the second year stepped up and did a lot more work. And after a huge dramatic meltdown during my second year, ended up being one of the main leaders of the camp my third year, because I was the one with the enthusiasm to keep it going. Right. And now the cat camp is still going. I want to say 17 or 18 years. They predate me, and they're still a great group of people.
Does that patch have a logo or something that's at that camp that sets them apart? Do you guys have like a flag or something? Do people do that? Do they put like something up so they can, even if they're a little fucked up, they can like kind of remember, see it down the street kind of thing?
Some people do signposts like that.
Tiki torch or something.
Tiki torches.
Or, I meant to say shit. What are those things? It's like fucking carvings. Shit. I just
like a totem pole kind
of? Totem pole! Not tiki torches, totem poles. That's what I meant to say.
Sometimes, most of the time is what you do is your first night out there, you'll go out to like the open playa, and if you just kind of look back to where you're at, you'll usually find a landmark that'll be there all week. And if you can find the man, you can find your way home. Because that'll tell you all. The man's right at the center. It's 6 o'clock. Where 3, 6, and 9 come together. If you can find the man, you can find yourself home.
That's good.
Getting lost is kind of difficult out there, but it does happen.
What was one of the most elaborate and or intense pieces of art you saw while you were in your journey across Burning Man?
So my second year, there was a piece called Crude Awakenings, and it was an oil derrick that was 10 feet high. And you could climb it. Not 10 feet high, 10 stories high. That it had stairs, you could go all the way to the top. And at the base, it had 5 structures made out of like reclaimed pieces of metal in the prayer poses of the 5 major religions, all worshiping this oil derrick. It was a cool piece of art.
Yeah.
What was even better, at the end of the week, when they blew up the oil derrick with a whole bunch of jet fuel and a jet engine, and the full-on mushroom cloud. I was 150 feet back at least from the burn perimeter, and it was still so hot we had to turn our faces away.
Wow.
Biblical pillar of fire right there.
Oh my god.
And the boom, the explosion from that is still like the biggest boom I've ever encountered in 13 years.
Holy shit.
This year, the fireworks for the man burn itself didn't stop for almost 30 minutes. I've never seen more fireworks in my life.
Burning Man's like the one title I haven't heard anyone try to gentrify.
Because in the bylaws, as they've written Burning Man, it makes it impossible.
Really? Like the title is set?
One, they own the trademarks.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense at that point.
It's officially now a nonprofit.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
There's no commercialism out there.
Yeah.
You can't buy anything. You can buy coffee at Center Camp. Center Camp is kind of your civic center, kind of. It's right in the center of the city, obviously.
Extra bandages or something?
Coffee.
Just coffee.
Coffee, tea, chai, electrolyte drinks. That's about it. And then you can buy ice. And that's it.
Really?
Everything else has got to come with you.
How much luggage did you take for that week?
Well,
The first week.
the thing is, I had a duffel bag, backpack, air mattress. You know,
Is there power?
lots of camps have generators.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Some people run things off their cars. Any camp with any sort of large infrastructure is going to have a bigger quality generator. Infrastructure camps have big generators. The camp I'm with now, the Lamplighters, yeah, we have access to a big generator and our own like medium-sized generator. But it kind of varies from camp to camp, level of organization. Some people use like solar-powered things that charge during the day, and the lights you use at night. There's a lot of varying options. You don't usually see fire as illumination though, except on the streets.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
The group that I'm with, Lamplighters, for 26 years now, we have lit the city without fail.
Really?
We do all the street lights for most of the major streets, all the way out to the Man, to the Temple. And yeah, we've done it every night without fail for 26 years.
Holy shit. That's amazing.
It is awesome. It's an amazing group of people from all over the place.
Is it torchlight or?
It's kerosene lanterns.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Every night at about just before sunset, every Burning Man, you'll see like this procession of people in robes with like fire painted on them, and that's us. And we have
That's us.
That's us. That's us. I swear we're not a cult.
Yeah. I was gonna say this is like we're explaining like the perfect commune, like just the craziest fucking like party in a sense, but there really is like it's a well-oiled machine at the end of the day. Like it seems like they've got everything under control. Like there's levels of
yeah, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
In the late 90s, they learned a lot about like what it's gonna mean. Because in 97, there was a structure that they burned and it almost fell on people.
Wow.
In 95, and this is before the city was actually organized, you just camped all over the desert. And you could still drive. And a whole tent of people were run over because there was no illumination. Like the people in the car couldn't see it until it was too late. They ran over a tent with people in there.
Damn, how do you fucking hit a tent?
It's a really big dark playa, and
Really?
yeah, it's flat, and you can't see much. And now that the city's laid out, once you take your car to your placement, you park it, you don't drive it around.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Unless it's a mutant vehicle, like an art car, that has to be registered with the DMV, the Department of Mutant Vehicles. And they have to be registered. They have to have certain safety types of things in place. But there's some really cool art cars. There's some golf carts with Christmas lights on it, and I'm like, is that really an art car?
Right.
I have a friend that likes to say out there that I've adopted is they can't give all the money to good art. Because the open playa is just this huge open expanse of art, and there's almost no limitation to what you can do out there. And sometimes you'll come to this art piece during the day, and it will seem really cool, and then you'll come back at night, and you're just like, oh, that's it?
Right.
Because sometimes you need the daytime, and then sometimes you'll get to things during the day and be kind of lame, but what you don't notice is it's illuminated at night with LEDs or things like that, and it's super cool.
Interesting.
The things, one of the biggest changes that I have seen in 13 years of Burning Man is the advent of more access to better quality light sources at night.
Okay.
Because there is, other than the lanterns that we put up, that's the only like real lighting. I mean, camps are illuminated, but you also personally have to be illuminated when you go out at night.
Now for people who are listening who have never been outside of a city, and I've met people who have never been outside of a city here in Chicago. Outside's not always orange, guys. When the sun goes down, it's not always this hazy glow of orange from streetlights. When you're out there, the moon can give you some work if it's out bright enough, but when you're truly out in the middle of nowhere and there's no light around you, like now I'm really stopping to think about it, and I'm like, yeah, I can see how you could just fucking hit somebody and you going 40 mile an hour and not even realize it. You know, you're in the middle of nowhere. Oh my god, yeah, that can get fucking dark.
And even like when you get out to what's called the deep playa, like far outside of the city,
right?
If you get caught in a dust storm, you can get totally turned around, and there may be nothing.
Wow,
yeah. And this year, went out with a friend, and we were out deep and exploring, and it got so windy and dusty that we had to get off of our bikes and just sit because it couldn't tell where we were going, couldn't find a landmark, couldn't see like 2 feet in front of your face. And so we basically just turned on our headlamps to illuminate us and our space so people with like bikes and stuff could see us if they were coming by. But we had to hold in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And try to fucking remember which way your bike was facing. Because that's a good thing that you at least had a bike.
Yeah.
Like, you're going in the direction you know, so you have something you can at least sit there and, like, fucking kind of remember handlebars are pointing this way or some shit. But, like, if you get caught up in it too quick, I couldn't imagine.
We let's just say we found the same bank of porta potties 3 times. We were kind of going in circles for a little bit. But still,
the mind can be a little hazy out there.
Oh,
you never know what's happening.
Oh yeah, and that's
these are little pocket knives, by the way. These aren't real.
But that's kind of the magic of it out there is you never know what you're gonna see or what you're gonna expect. That night we found this cool structure, and there's all these people around, and we find this sign, and basically inside of the structure is a speakeasy, but you have to answer all of these riddles to get in.
Nice.
And we weren't going to spend an hour and a half trying to figure out riddles.
There's another spot right here.
But a friend of mine, she put in the time. She's also like crazy brilliant. And she went in, and she doesn't drink. But she went in there and she's like, yeah, there was some like chips, and they were pouring like basic drinks. So it wasn't like we missed anything like super awesome.
Right. It wasn't some kind of show.
But some of the times the best art out there makes you think, makes you work for it a little bit.
Oh
yeah. There was this one piece like 3 or 4 years ago called "The Last Outpost," and it was way deep out there and barely lit. But when you got close, you'd see signs that like approaching the outpost 00 something, and then you found a sign that's like, "Women and children move along. Wait for relocation. You don't belong at the outpost." And it's kind of dark, and you get there, and it's this like ramshackle 2-story structure, and there's like a seed bank, and there's tools on the wall, and there's like a TV that's like flickering in and out, but every so often the message will come through, and sometimes the scarier pieces of art out there are kind of cool.
I bet.
Yeah.
That's fucking wild.
Everything just tend to be bright and pretty and earth mothery, and sometimes like a little bit of a haunted house out there can go a long way.
I dig it. So, like, you were saying earlier, I think, that usually, or at least this year, it was around 70,000 people that show up. And you're there for about a week, right?
Yeah.
So if you're there for this week, or even if you show up a couple days later, how do you meet people, if that makes sense? Like, what do they have any kind of, like, gatherings just for, like, a pen pal, like, exchange or something?
So the best way to meet people out there is just to go up and say hi.
Okay.
Like, chances are, you go up and say hi to somebody, they're going to, and you start a conversation, they're going to talk to you, or at least interact with you for a little bit. But there's a couple of, like, kind of dating, campy kind of things, but there's Costco Soulmate Exchange.
What's that?
So Costco Soulmate Exchange is this really big camp, and you go in early in the week, and you fill out this, like, questionnaire, partly by yourself, partly you have a stranger interview you, and then a member of Costco comes in and talks to you about who you are and tries to get to know you and all of your ins and outs. And then you wait a couple of days, you come back, you turn in your Costco card, which has got your name and your application number, and they hand you a questionnaire similar to the one that you handed out earlier in the week, and that's your soulmate.
How long has that been going on?
At least 7 or 8 years, maybe more.
Really?
Like they're a pretty big camp. They're placed very central in the city. Like they're quite established, and they have a really good like setup.
But what an interesting thing for Costco to be involved in.
Not officially.
Oh, so it's not official.
Yeah, not official at all.
Okay.
Not
okay.
that would be corporate sponsorship.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was assuming.
Even though they use a very similar logo to Costco itself, it is not associated in any way.
Oh, so it's just something that people kind of made up along the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of supposed to feel like you go into that big box warehouse store for dating.
Okay.
But when they hand you your soulmate, it's got their rough address on it, a sketch of themselves that they had to draw, usually in pencil, and you can go find them. And then somebody else is assigned your sheet. So you have a soulmate to find and a soulmate that's trying to find you.
How wild is that? That's cool as shit.
Yeah.
And is it just like a free service, or is it like...
Oh, yeah.
Is there any form of currency besides money out there?
It's a gift economy.
Okay.
You don't barter. You can spend cash, U.S. dollars, on coffee at Center Camp and ice at a camp called Arctica. And that's all you can buy. That's all you can spend money on. There's no other currency exchange at all. It is decommodification is one of the 10 principles of Burning Man. And you don't, you come prepared. Your food, water.
Yeah.
I mean, technically with Arctica, you're buying a bunch of ice. You could melt it down into water. So technically, I guess you can purchase water, but that would be super emergency because they're just giving you a bag of ice. They're not giving you something to put the water in
or anything. Yeah. Wild. Is there any other? Because I'm assuming the Costco Cupid thing is kind of like a staple. Like everyone's trying to do that. Or is it just mostly like another pop-up thing?
I mean, it's been around for a while. They do it all week, so it's something that if you don't make it to on Monday or Tuesday, you can go later in the week and do it. But I have no idea what their numbers are like, but they're always pretty crowded. And I mean, I couldn't even guess to what percentage of the actual amount of people out there actually make it through.
I guess what my question was trying to lead into was the question about, is there any other small things to do like that's not just like hanging out with strangers or hanging out with these giant pieces of art that they put up?
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? Is there any kind of is there a Ghostbusters chapter or something weird?
I mean, there's always Orgy Dome.
Orgy Dome. See, that's what we're talking about.
But
let's get into it. What the fuck? Is it just an Orgy Dome?
So Orgy Dome is exactly as it sounds, and not exactly as it sounds.
Okay.
They're very, very, very strict rules for a reason.
Yeah, I believe that.
It's meant to be like a very open sexual space, and so one, men that are by themselves, unaccompanied by a woman, are not permitted.
Makes sense.
They don't let a guy can come in if he's accompanied with a woman, but if they don't just allow random single dudes to go in there. Because you end up with that creepy old dude in the corner masturbating, and making people feel uncomfortable, or taking advantage of that person that's tripping a little too hard and can't give consent. Orgy Dome is very, very much about consent.
God, I bet that's fucking one of the biggest things they watch for is just for people taking advantage of people who are tripping.
Absolutely.
Has there ever been a murderer there?
There has never been murders on Playa. There have been deaths, there has been suicide, but there's never been a murder.
Okay. No, serial, fights or anything?
No. One.
Well, that's beautiful.
No fights. I think we've talked about that before. Fights are really, really, people don't get into fights out there. I think just because generally the crowd is trying to, always kind of trying to de-escalate things. The general vibe is to have fun and be together and
just melt into it.
Yeah,
I get you. Okay.
But even before the Me Too movement and all of this talk in the last couple of years of consent, that's always been a very, very big thing at Burning Man. That, like, in every porta potty, there's usually, like, a little piece of paper taped inside that is from the Bureau of Consent. And it's this group of people that is all about educating in proper ways of what is consent, how to tell if somebody's giving consent, what to do if you're feeling threatened. They do, like, just a bunch of amazing camps out there that are really trying to make sure that everyone's experience is safe and fulfilling and healthy to them, without, like, because it's a hard environment to navigate.
Yeah. Is there ever so, like, you know how people follow the dead, for example, and they'll be out in the parking lot selling, like, their own kind of merch and shit like that, and just, like, this is what we do, this is how we make our living, we make these shirts and these posters for, you know, this tour, and then when they're off tour, we're at home, and then we do it again. Is there anyone who does that for Burning Man? Like, goes through and is like, hey, I made all these fucking funky keychains or this and that? Or
there's no one at Burning Man trying to sell anything.
That's my question, basically.
No one's trying to sell anything. Like, it's not just against the rules. It would be absolutely taboo. Like, it wouldn't be as bad, but I liken it to somebody going out there and wearing, like, either, like, Nazi attire or doing... It would just be... It's just offensive to the culture. Commodification is... But in the towns outside of where Burning Man takes place, Gerlach, Empire, there are pop-up shops that sell, you know, lighting or costuming stuff or fur boot covers or, you know, all of the things that the people who didn't plan for Burning Man need to buy at the last second. And
so there's, like, CVS's selling glow sticks and shit.
Kinda.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna lie, I've had to shop at those places. Coming in from Chicago is kind of difficult to bring everything.
What's the most all-out you've gone in your time? Like, have you ever been like, I'm bringing this object or this fucking costume or anything like that? Or this piece of wardrobe?
I've never been a big costume guy.
Okay.
But one year I brought 35 different infused alcohols with me. So that's kind of the biggest, like, project that I've ever done. My camp and we bought a bunch of, like, Costco liquor, and like, I'm a chef and bartender, and basically infused all these alcohols with fruits and spices and did all these amazing things. And it was a big project, but very successful. Had some really great flavored stuff.
That's awesome.
That's kind of the, like, other than founding.
That's the most pre-planning you've done.
Yeah, other than, like, just general
camp
camp logistics.
Yeah, right.
And that was a lot of fun.
What's the craziest you've seen? Like, have you ever seen somebody on stilts dressed as Big Bird or something, like, crazy and outlandish?
I think the thing that, like, every year there's that person that takes personal lighting at night to, like, a new level.
Okay.
And there was a guy a couple years ago that was in a head-to-toe suit covered in just black and white, like, LED blinkies, probably 1 inch by 1 inch, like, panels. And from a distance, he looked like walking static.
Whoa.
Like, from a distance, it looked like snow on a TV.
That's fucking dope.
And so cool. Like, hard to believe. It was like, is that a piece of art, or is that somebody actually out there? And, like, you couldn't until you walk up, and then he just looks like a checkerboard. But it was so cool. It was
that's
like,
awesome.
Yeah. And when you're under the influence of certain things, and you're like, oh god, dude, what the fuck is that? You know. That's what I like out there.
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure.
I'm the jaded burner who's seen everything, and so when I do see something that, like, is different and exciting to me, that's some of the best thing.
Well, what are in that sense? Then you've been going for 13 years, so that means I'm assuming every couple of years something's got to, like, really catch your eye more than the last times you've been there. What are a few things that you've stumbled across, whether sober or not, that you were like, this is awesome? Was there ever just, like, a street with random skates and everyone could just rollerblade up and down the block or something? Like, what were some crazy things that you came across?
So, couple of things. I found a camp of Irishmen.
Okay.
Irish people. And they're serving Irish whiskey, which I am personally a fan of. And they had this whole thing where they would, like, vibrate the whiskey to, like, add more flavor to it. But they actually did it with, like, giant vibrators. And so that was kind of fun. I saw a woman claiming to be, like, a tantric shaman kind of thing. And get two heterosexual guys to grind on each other. And it was one giant comedic act.
Wow.
They should have known when she said her name was D. Aria.
Oh, D. Aria.
And I think this is probably the funniest moment that I've ever encountered at Burning Man. D. Aria, and she's like giving her spiel about how she wants to feel the good vibes and everything. And she stops, walks out into the audience, goes up to a girl and just sniffs her. And she's like, "You're amazing. Your aura smells of lavender and soy bacon." And my buddy and I, who I'm with, we just die laughing. And everyone looks and turns to us like it's something serious.
Oh, man.
But it's kind of funny that, you know, nobody realized that they were at a comedy club. It was not real at all. It was like this woman.
It was a placebo effect. Yeah. They fell for it.
Yeah. And to this woman to get these, not necessarily blatantly homophobic dudes, but dudes that were not comfortable with physical contact with another dude. Because she was all in between them. And she was, you know, hot. She was very hot. Right. She's in between them and grinding. And then she just steps out. And the dudes like end up grinding on each other. And it takes them just a second to realize that they weren't. It was pretty funny. But I'm always amazed by just the people out there.
Yeah.
Like, just, whether it's, you know, somebody coming up and giving you a piece of vegetable or something in the afternoon and having it be, like, the best thing ever to eat, or you're having a hard time and someone just puts their hand on your shoulder and just asks if you're okay. That is the thing that really brings me back every year, is the people and the community.
I love that. That's awesome, man. Now, has there been any other community that's even come close to the community that you found? Is the community at Burning Man, at this point, since you've been going long enough, do you feel welcomed in other communities like you do when you're there? Or is it just the place is such a magical idea in the first place that there's really nothing that can compare to it?
There's nothing to compare to it. Personally, right. Like, I am someone that's generally, like, racked with anxiety and self-doubt, but, I find that people are truer, and I don't think I've ever found a group of people that I felt more comfortable being myself with than the people that I've met at Burning Man.
Do you all still go by your name in the real world there?
It kind of depends. I'm known as Badger out there. I've been Badger for a long time.
How'd you get the nickname Badger?
General demeanor.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
But also, like...
Not a bad way.
I'm the Ginger Badger. I give a shit, and you thank me for it later.
I get you.
I'm, like, for better or for worse, I have been the one that worries about all of the little things so the people around me don't. It got real old, but, like, I've been Badger for 13 years now, and the new camp that I joined the last couple of years already had a Badger. But he hasn't been there in 2 years, and I've actually never met the guy. And the camp had been trying to, like, we can only have one Badger. And this year I decided, if you can have more than one Batman, if you can have more than one Spider-Man, the camp going to be more than one Badger.
Yeah, I mean, 70,000 people, there's bound to be a couple Badgers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, come on.
But there are also definitely a couple of names, like ply nicknames. When you hear them, you know exactly what you're going to get.
Really?
Like... you meet a girl and she's, you know, or just, not even girl, just a person that seems a little bit like eager or slutty or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, my name's Trouble. Chances are that's true.
Yeah.
Red flag.
I've met some trouble.
Or like, I'm Space Kitten. Or, you know, like, a lot of the times you can kind of tell the person from their playa name. Sometimes you have to think about it more, but if somebody's like, you know, hi, my name's Fucktard, chances are they're like beloved by their camp, but they tend to fuck up all the time.
But it's Fucktard. Man, you know how bad it's going to be to be the one person at Burning Man named Fucktard?
Probably not the only one.
Yeah, you're right. There's many Badgers, there's many Fucktards, but...
the mayor of my camp, the leader of my camp, if you don't have a
How did you become mayor? How did you become mayor?
Time, work,
yeah.
Willing to take it on.
Yeah.
He hates doing anything at Burning Man, but he takes care of everything else during the year.
Oh, it makes sense.
He takes pride in never leaving camp. He never leaves camp. I don't know how he could.
So camp's up all year long.
Yeah, he stays in our little village the whole time he's at Burning Man.
Oh, okay.
He never leaves. He never explores the city. Never really does anything.
I get you now.
And that's how he likes to do it.
Yeah.
Me, I want to get out of camp. I need to see everything. But if you don't have a playa name, he will give you one. And he's a sadistic motherfucker.
Really?
We have a baby wipes in camp because she uses too many baby wipes.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the easy ways to get clean out there.
Yeah.
The showers are a premium.
I've heard it's the same way in the military.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, baby wipes is better than cigarettes. It's crazy.
Yeah, like especially late in the week at Burning Man, if you haven't had a shower and the dust is just caked on, a baby wipe, just like wipe your face off, maybe like your arms a little bit. It feels amazing.
Right.
But yeah, so like he'll give people names. We have Twat Waffle. Or Twaffle. But people tend to reflect their playa names out there. More than you would expect. And over the 13 years, I've, somebody goes by Trouble, chances are I'm going to card them. Chances are I'm not going to serve them alcohol as quickly as I would.
Right.
Keep a little bit of an extra eye on them. Usually means nothing, but, red flag.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to be like, hey, dude, you know where I can score some E?
Right.
And it's like, drugs? What's that? We don't do drugs. What are drugs? Because there are a lot of people, there's a decent amount of, law enforcement that's trying to trap you.
Yeah.
If you're, out in the dark and at night and somebody comes and offers you water and then asks you where the cool parties are, chances are they're going to be a narc.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I don't...
So where are the cool parties? No,
there are a lot of amazing dance camps out there. Major dance camp, Opulent Temple is probably one of the biggest.
Do they get acts out there? Do they get music?
I've seen.
Is there a stage?
There are dance camps which are usually very, very well funded, big camps. I've seen Crystal Method, DJ John Digweed, Tycho, Flaming Lotus, Go Bordello.
How much does Burning Man cost?
The ticket is going to cost you about $500 with ticket fees through Ticket Fly.
Yeah. How fast does it sell out? Yeah.
If you do not hit that, perfect timing.
So it's like a Lala or something like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of, you gotta be right on top of it.
Yeah.
Usually, because you have to register. And, you have to create a burner profile. And usually you're given a specific time frame of when you can buy your ticket. And I always recommend to people start trying to buy it 5 minutes early and just hitting that button over and over and over again. And hopefully you'll get it. It's not something I've ever really had to use because I've always been able to. Like, if you really get involved in the organization, you can get direct tickets, but they're not any cheaper. It just means that you're getting like the ticket easier.
Does admission also count for like a shuttle in or something, or no?
No. The majority of the ticket costs go to porta potties.
Yeah.
And the land rental from the Bureau of Land Management. But it also goes to cost for the organization, funding for artists, donations to the local peoples, things that like goes to like my camp, the Lamplighters, or Center Camp Cafe, or like major infrastructure camps. It goes to pay for things like that.
Were you brought into Burning Man at the Lamplighter camp, or was that something you found after one of your...
That's something I found after.
So, what was the name of your first camp again?
The first camp I was with was called the Astropups.
The Astropups?
Yeah.
That's a cool name.
Yeah. It was fun. Astropup Labs, as originally it was known. And just kind of...
Was it just a friend or a relative?
I was a guy that I was dating.
Okay, yeah.
And he introduced me to the whole concept, and the Astropups adopted me and took me in, and just a queer social camp, fun, frisky, and fabulous as well.
And you were in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of the major camps are surrounded in San Francisco. It's a lot easier to get there. It's a lot cheaper to get there. The farther where the camp is from, usually the more money you're going to have involved, just because transportation costs.
Right.
But usually, like, I know Boston, New York, Chicago, Miami, Atlanta, and Dallas the community gets together and will rent a shipping container or multiple shipping containers, and you have to bring all your stuff like a couple weeks early, but they get all of your stuff to the burn, and then you grab your stuff, you do it through the week, you take it back there at the end of the week, and they'll get it home.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is that an extra fee though?
Yeah, you got to pay in.
How much does that run?
I have no idea.
I've
never had to do it.
Never done it?
Yeah, I've never had to do it.
There you go. Have you ever had any issues where you're like, fuck, my bag's not here, or something like something you didn't pack?
Oh, like I don't think there's a year that I've not forgotten something.
Yeah.
Like, this year,
what was the worst? Where we were like, fuck, I really needed that. I needed this.
This year I forgot my meds. That was
pretty
bad, yeah.
That's pretty important.
I had to crowdsource my prep at Burning Man. If you don't know what that is, it's pre-exposure prophylaxis.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Pre-exposure prophylaxis. It basically is a pill every day that makes it really hard for me to contract HIV. So I forgot out, but I ran into some friends, and one friend gave me about half as much as I need, and then I went and found my brother, who's also gay, and I love, but he's way sluttier than I am.
Me too! No, that's exactly, my brother is gayer than me, and he's way sluttier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's 10 years younger, so he's still, like, in his, mid-20s, but, like, he was like, I went and found him, and I was like, Bear, his name's Bear, like, do you have prep? Do you have some extra prep? And he's like, yeah, I brought my whole bottle. And I was like, yes. So he gave me enough to get me throughout the whole week.
That's good.
Ironically enough, did not get laid this year, but that was not a priority. I still had a bunch of cuddles, and
There you go.
But like, didn't really even need it, but at the same time, was glad to have it.
Exactly. Fuck, man, It's like you just got back from space and you're telling me about like another planet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you really think about it, it's just so foreign to be like, there's no fights. Like, there's no one trying to sell you shit that you don't desperately need and shit like that. And like, it's just love and compassion and just like a blanket of love in the desert. And here's all these crazy lights and party. Like,
it's not far off.
I know, just to hear it though, it's so fucking foreign. Just because, I'm here, and I was in Chicago and I was in Louisville, and both times was not a blanket of love. Just gonna say it straightforward like that. Yes, you can find a recreational smile, but you can't find a pure joy smile. You really have to work for it. This is just fucking unreal. I think I gotta go to Burning Man now.
I think
I gotta try it.
I think you would really enjoy it.
I feel like I'd talk too much, though, and people would be like, why is he talking so much?
No, but what's so great about Burning Man is that people listen.
Really? Oh, that's so
People are willing to listen to you.
Oh, man.
Or at least give you the benefit of the doubt more.
That's fair. That's cool.
I had dinner a couple of days ago with my buddy James, and Burning Man 2017, he was a complete stranger. I had an extra ticket, got him the extra ticket, and he went to his first Burning Man. He had the time of his life.
No shit.
And he went to Burning Man again this year. He went to Mid-Burn, which
What's
is...
Mid-Burn?
It's a regional burn. So all over the world, there are smaller events that are basically Burning Man, but in different places throughout the world. And Mid-Burn is Middle East Burn. And it takes place in a park, in like a national park on the Israeli-Jordanian border.
Holy shit.
And he, again, had the most amazing time. And so I had this is the first time I had seen him since the burn this past year. And we were talking, and he was just like, I can't even tell you how everything went, but he had an incredibly transformative year this year out there. And he, at one point, was having a really hard time, and then finally got himself out of his head, mid to late week, and he just started going and sharing, he was just going up to people and being like, can I share my truth with you? And ended up meeting all of these amazing people and having some real conversations beyond just the scope of, you having a good burn, dude? You know?
Right.
So that's it's very much people are willing to listen, people are willing to hear you out, people are there, and there's a sense of empathy and camaraderie there. Because I think the fact that you just get out there is half of the thing.
What's the most honest thing you think anyone's ever told you there? You can take a moment to think about that. Man, it's crazy. I know we've been talking for an hour plus, but it feels like a week, So there's so much to learn about it. It's just maddening. And beautiful at the same time. This is everything I wish Disney was. If that makes sense. This truly sounds like the most happiest place on earth.
There are no secret tunnels or cast members at Burning Man.
You don't know about the secret tunnels. There could have been one guy digging one this whole time.
You're not allowed to actually dig.
You're not allowed to dig?
Unless you're putting in what's called a burn pad, which is usually a layer of gravel that goes slightly underneath the surface. Because if something big is burning on top of it, it does not... Because the dust is inhabited by eggs of brine shrimp, which are... You don't see when you're out there, but during the wet season is a vital part of the ecosystem out there.
Oh, okay.
Would you repeat your question one more time, just so I can
Yeah, absolutely. What was it? Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I got it just right. This is the best way to do it. The question was, what is the most honest thing you've ever heard there? Have you ever seen anyone just come into an insanely personal realization, or just anything happen to where you heard someone speak the truth?
I think the most honest thing I have ever heard was, I think I should go home. It's a couple years ago. Long-term guy that I camped with a long time was just having a really hard week, and his partner was not there with him. He just, bad thing after bad thing after bad thing kept happening to him. And then he really hurt his foot, and God bless him, he really tried.
Yeah.
But it was Thursday, Friday, towards the end of the week, and he was just I know you guys are all going out after dinner tonight as a camp. I'm going to stay back, and when you guys get back, I'm not going to be here. And I was like, what? And he's like, I think I need to go home. He wasn't meant to be there, or what he was able to recognize that, he had already gotten as much as he could out of the burn.
Right.
And trying to force the rest of the burn on himself would not have helped him or the camp And it was just a really, because he's a guy who gets just as excited for me about Burning Man. Like, people generally hate me in the month of August because Burning Man is all I can talk about. And he's the same way. And for him to be able to say, I think I just need to go home, was really honest.
Yeah.
And Burning Man is amazing and wonderful, but it's not Disneyland. It's not always the happiest place on earth. Burning Man allows you to explore the extremes, good and bad. It really forces you to be really honest with yourself about who do you want to portray yourself as, who and what you want to be as a force out there. Like other than you, what do you want to project? Like what do you want to give back? And sometimes it's not an easy thing. It's not a happy thing. But that's the kind of the real truth about Burning Man, is that it's not a vacation.
Right.
It's not enough. It's not just going to be, oh, I went to Burning Man and I found myself and everything is wonderful. Burning Man's hard. Burning Man puts you through the ringer. It's hard physically. It's hard emotionally. And you kind of have to expect that. Or at least, like, give room for that. Nobody has a perfect burn. Nobody is happy all the time out there.
That's why you get burned by it.
Yeah.
That's the point, right?
And, like,
Damn.
I was talking to a friend, and it's like, you got to carry the burden with you when you leave Burning Man. You have to take that love and empathy that you feel out there, the ambient empathy out there, and bring it with you. My friend James, who was talking about a second ago, he's like, when I got back from Burning Man, like, my ex-wife asked me, like, so you've been to Burning Man 2 years in a row, like, what does that mean to you? And he's like, well, I want to burn the world. And she's like, what? Like, but he wants to carry that flame. He wants to ignite that sense and that fire of creativity and empathy and wonder to everywhere in the world. And I think that was like, I got all teary-eyed at dinner because I was just like, that is just such a beautiful way of saying, like, what I've been trying to put into words for years.
Yeah.
I'm super jealous of him. I've been to Burning Man 13 years, but I've never been to a regional burn. I've never gone to any of these smaller events.
Yeah.
So, like, you don't have to go to Burning Man to get that, to be around that.
Which one of your trips was the most fulfilling to you?
When
you really have to look back on all 13 of them, which one was your
Ooh.
Which one was the one that really mattered? The one that really made a difference, whether it was 7 or 9 or 1, or this last one. And if you're comfortable.
So I think I'm gonna have to say, so my 7th burn.
Wow.
Was, I mean, every year, not every year, but but that was my first year after I left the Astropups, my first camp, and a group of 12 of us formed our new camp, and we had to do everything from scratch, and that year was amazing. And it was the first time that I felt like I really created something from scratch and was able to see that come to fruition. And we were a family, and the camp is still going on. I'm not with them anymore, but that year was just like, we came together and like really creating it was the first year that I felt like I had given something truly back to Burning Man. Like, that I had created something.
A little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah. Definitely. I will always be in debt to a man named Larry Harvey. He's the man who created Burning Man. He passed away this year.
Oh, sorry.
And he's a man I'll always be in debt to because it did change my life. And that was the first year I really ever felt like I created something with lasting impacts. And we didn't know if it was going to totally collapse on ourselves because we were experienced, but we didn't, like, without the infrastructure that we had.
What goes into creating your camp? So what are the basics to each camp? And when you say that we had a camp and now we don't have a camp, this is what I'm picturing, okay? I'm picturing this plot of sand, I assume, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This desert floor.
Yeah.
And when you say I have a camp at first, that's already built up and created. I just picture large tents, like people gathered, sitting around and whatnot. So now we strip it all away. There's nothing but that sand. What are some of the basic things we need to take care of?
First thing, people.
Okay.
You need campers to inhabit your camp. You need shade. That's a big thing. People usually use like carports that you can assemble out there. Sometimes a geodome. Sometimes like lots of variations on shade netting.
How much space do you actually get?
It depends. Because when you apply for your camp application, they ask you how much you need. But for a camp of about 20 to 25 people, usually it's 100 by 150 feet.
Wow.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is more than enough room.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, you need shade. You need, if you're supplying food, you need some sort of kitchen. You need a communal space. You need water. Water's a big thing, if the camp is supplying water. But basically what a camp needs is a place for people to congregate, generally out of the sun, and a place for people to camp. That's your bare minimum. Lots of camps have people bring their own food and water, so they don't have to worry about, like, a kitchen space or as a camp bringing in water, but I always found it easier just to, like, make the camp all-inclusive. Everybody's paying the same amount of money. We had some, like, 50-gallon containers that we would just fill up with water once we hit Reno, going into Burning Man. And usually 4 of those, so about 200 gallons of water was enough for the camp for the week. And nowadays you can even have, if you bring your own containers, you can have water delivered to your camp.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that is all paid for outside of Burning Man, so if it's not commodity, but really it was when the group of us left the Astropups and formed Beard House, my second camp.
I was going through your pictures on Facebook and I saw a bunch of them from Burning Man stuff and like your camps and all the people and stuff. It was really interesting.
Oh yeah, it's great group of people. But the thing is, like, costs are very different when you have 12 people to when you have 35 people. We didn't have, like, all of the shade structures that we used with the Astropups all belong to the Astropups. So we had to figure out what are we doing with shade. We had to figure out, like, we had to crowdsource as much equipment as we possibly could, because we wanted to keep costs down. Like, forming a new camp, like, starting a new camp can be very expensive if you don't have all the equipment that you need. Because it is self-reliant. You have to bring everything with you.
Are there any sponsored camps?
Nope, that would be commodification.
Okay, but does it still happen occasionally?
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's against the rules, but, like, does it still happen?
Like, you would never see brought to you by.
Yeah, there's not like a giant Nestle like tent or something.
But,
you know what I'm saying?
Google Camp is always out there.
Oh yeah, okay, interesting.
If you're familiar with the Bronner's, Dr. Bronner's, the soap.
Yeah.
The family are avid burners. The whole family. They go every year as a family.
Really? Who's the most interesting person you met? Did we talk about this already?
Interesting or famous?
Oh, both.
So I think we talked about this. I was served a drink by Susan Sarandon once.
Yes, we said that earlier.
Yeah.
We said that earlier.
The most interesting person I've met out there. Oh God, there's so many. It's so many, and there's also so many that I haven't like remembered. But
Shuffle the deck a little. I don't need names or anything. But
I met this woman Sarah and I one year. I don't know what event we were at. I don't know if it was just getting coffee or something like that. And just absolutely gorgeous woman. We started a conversation. Oh, I think we actually volunteered at Lamplighters together. That's where we met.
Okay.
And ended up like we invited her back to camp because we had like an event going on that night, and we ended up like hanging out like 2 or 3 times throughout the week, and like just had just a really great time. And got to know her, and we to this day we still talk. I don't think we've ever seen each other since then, but we still talk on Facebook every so often, and like every year right before the burn, we both check in and we're like, I'm gonna be out there, I'm gonna see you, and well, I've been out there every year, but sometimes she's not, but like I think she was born in Iran, and like to hear her whole family story about how they came to America, and how like her first burn, it was just such like an eye opener for her, and like it was a whole new way to like live and think, and just to hear different people's perspectives on things.
Wow.
You know, but I've had deep conversations with like a 5-year-old out there.
What's the age limit there?
None.
Oh, really? So like you.
There are people as literally as young as 6 months and as old as 90 probably out there.
Wow.
Or even older, maybe. Who knows?
Right.
I mean, personally, if I had kids, I'd probably wait till like 5 years old to take them out there, because that's about the age they can say, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I'm tired, and it be that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, kids are amazing out there.
I bet.
They get it way more than the adults.
Really?
Yeah, and like, there's none of that like shame or modesty or like social decorum that people like that you feel like you have to do. They just understand, and it's the best place in the world for kids. It's like it truly shows limits that there's like almost no imagination to what no limit to what you can imagine, and you can, if you want to make something happen, you can make it happen. And you know, kids rock out there. Kids are awesome.
That's amazing. I would have been so fucking freaked out if I would have seen kids after I got there and like not known. I always assumed it was like 18 or over, or like 13 or over.
There have been children at every single Burning Man since the first Burning Man in 1987 in Baker Beach in San Francisco.
So kids are like literally being raised at Burning.
Oh yeah,
that's fucking.
I've met second, third generation burners.
No shit.
Yeah.
How long's it been going again? We said this earlier.
In 1987, 86, 87 was the first year, and it was like, I want to say it was like 40, 50 people, and they burned a little effigy of the man.
No
and
shit.
it was like a solstice celebration at Baker Beach in San Francisco.
So is that the origin of it, pretty much?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then a couple years later, after a couple years, and there was all of a sudden 2,000 people at the beach, the city of San Francisco was like, hey guys, find somewhere else to do your event. And they somehow found the Black Rock Desert in Nevada.
Wow.
The vacant heart of the Wild Wild West.
Huh.
And it very much, like, it feels like there's nothing. There's nobody. And it kind of feels like one of those places that's like, yeah, would be exactly the same 100 years ago, minus the road.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Before Burning Man, one second. I'll let that out. I'm just getting a little breeze in here. Before Burning Man, what was your asylum? Where did you go to for comfort? Or like what was the closest thing to Burning Man you had before Burning Man?
Wow. I don't even know that person anymore. That's so long.
If you were to close your eyes and I was to ask you the same question, what do you think your mind would go to? Was there a relative's house, or was there a park, or was there just anywhere you could always go to and get that same feeling of I'm home?
No.
Wow.
No. Burning Man was largely a part of my life that I never realized I was missing. I have never in my life found that something that is one I've stuck to that long. And I've never, I don't think I've ever, I'm trying to imagine, what I did with my time, one, I was...
We get so caught up in our daily life after we turn, 15. We're pretty fucked on that, I feel like.
One, started going to Burning Man 24. It was my first year, so I was still still very much forming myself at the time. But I was way more active in stuff in the gay community, whether it be the bear or leather community or whatever. But I was already pretty disenchanted by that at the time. I really wasn't doing anything, except for searching for something.
Yeah,
and I think Burning Man was that goal, that shining city on the hill, so to speak.
Yes.
That I was always running towards, and thought it was God, thought it was a relationship. No, it's city of hippies in the desert that exists for a week a year. And it's giving me more purpose in my life than probably anything else.
Jeez, man, that's awesome. That's amazing. There's so many people in this world that will never fucking find their happiness. And they'll try. You know what I mean? They'll search high and low, and then for whatever reason, they're just unplugged. They're out of the game, and they never achieved it. So congratulations on that, man.
No, yeah.
Is there anything else in your life that you think you're more passionate towards than the idea of Burning Man?
There are
hobbies or anything else, or is it just Burning Man's the highlight of the year for you?
I mean, I've always been a comic book nerd. I'll always be a comic book nerd.
For sure.
But there's actually in the last year, and it's still super formative and something that's kind of in my head. So I've dealt with anxiety and depression almost my entire life, but I got mugged a little over a year ago, and since then it's been a lot more. I've had a really rough past year, and as a chef and somebody who works in the restaurant and hospitality industry, you don't have a lot of support. And in January, a friend of mine who also works in the industry took his own life. And a couple months later, I attempted to do the same and was in the hospital for a little while. But something that's been really, really, becoming a bigger part is finding some way for the service industry to get a better mental health support. We work in really stressful conditions, really tough, and not getting paid enough. And we don't have anybody, we don't have, you can call these, hotlines, but chances are they're not going to know or, be able to really empathize about, what it's like to have a really shitty day of service and have your chef yell at you and know that you fucked up. And, so something that's been really forming is trying to find a way to really focus on mental health support for the bar, restaurant, and hospitality industries.
That's awesome.
And
holy shit, that's amazing. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, man. I've seen it. A lot of my jobs have been in kitchen and bar back kind of work and shit, and the conditions are terrible.
Yeah.
Rarely is there a window, let alone fucking natural light coming into where they work for
breaks.
8 to 10
What's
hours.
A break?
Right.
Yeah.
a lot of times people take up smoking just so they get 5 minutes to like fucking.
Why do you? That is how I started smoking. That is why I smoke.
Right. It's a fucking tough job, man, and it's one of those things where like people who pick up or who like garbage men, for example, they get insanely well taken care of. You know what I'm saying? But like people who are fucking prepping food, nothing. Yeah.
And it's important. And like what I would love to see is in every break room, in every kitchen, in every bar, every hotel, that like there's a poster and that there's a number that you can call. And somebody that you can talk to that is going to understand where you're like coming from when it comes to that hospitality.
Just someone to vent to.
Vent, yeah. Like literally, my chef is an asshole, and blah 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 blah. Or
I hear you.
I had this horrible table, or something, and it's
happens.
All we do is drink it away. Like that is how like we get through our mental health. Is we drink it away and. There's got to be better ways of doing that. Like, don't get me wrong, I fucking love to go out and have some beers and get nice a little drunk. But there are better ways to get through the mental health issues than that.
Very true, man. Very true.
And
my dad's side's Irish, and a lot of them have worked in the service industry, and I've watched a lot of them fucking. And nothing against people who are Irish, obviously, but there's that old stigma kind of thing, and I'm like, yeah. I see it, man. A lot of people drink.
And it makes it hard to change careers. Like I love the industry, but I need something different. And as someone who's trying to get work outside of the industry, it's incredibly difficult because it works so differently. And like having an actual interview is almost unknown to me. I'm so used to going in and having a stage, which, if you don't know, is like a working tryout. And to dress up and, sit down and talk to people about theoreticals and like,
Yeah.
And
hypotheticals.
And it's like, and it's not something like I'm used to anymore. So it's the industry needs to be improved. And there's a lot of ways that we can. And I think the mental health, the support of the people who are really there in the trenches, who are really working for shitty money and horrible conditions, they need more support. And I think they really should we really need somebody to come in and really advocate for the people in the industry. And there's nobody out there right now. You have these quote-unquote celebrity chefs that supposedly take care of their people, and once that chef stops working in the restaurant on a day-to-day basis, generally it goes out the window. I'm on Food Network now. I'm opening my 4th, 6th, 8th restaurant. I'm not going to care about those employees,
right?
And yeah, it's like. I really wish there was somebody really talking about the hospitality, the food and beverage industry, because we don't have the support, and it's not healthy, and it's not getting any better.
Real quick, guys, you've made it this far with us. We only got about another 30 minutes left, but I gotta cut the video into 2 parts. So swing on over to the next video and catch the end of this conversation. Love you.